Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. It's Trey, and I want to talk about Venom, Let There Be Carnage. I have not seen the movie, so don't worry. I'm just going to spitball some things out there. And I want to ask a question to anybody that's listening is, would you want to see Venom take on Spider-Man? No matter which Spider-Man it is. It can be Tom Holland, it can be Andrew Garfield, it can be the Tobey Maguire one. And I'm just saying, I think that if they do that, I think it could mature the Spider-Man character. But if they do a crossover, let's say Sony and Marvel decide to do Venom versus Spider-Man, right? I think that it would have to be PG-13. I mean, not PG-13. It would have to be a rated R. It would have to be a rated R. It'll have to be a rated R because I feel like I haven't seen Venom 2. So I haven't only saw one review of it. That's about it. People saying that it was like stupid fun from reactions that I saw on like Instagram. But other than that, I don't really know much about the movie. I don't know what the end credit scene is, so I couldn't tell you guys. But I was thinking that maybe they could do a crossover, and you can have it where, I don't know, for some reason, let's say we use the MCU Spider-Man, right? Let's say after he got unmasked or whatever, he kind of had to flee to San Francisco. Don't know how, don't know why, don't even care how he does it. Let's just say he had to go to San Francisco. How about that? You know what I'm saying? That would be cool, right? Okay, cool. So he goes to San Francisco, and Venom's there. Venom is supposed to be the lethal protector. This could really show off Venom being this ruthless vigilante anti-hero kind of guy. And even though Peter Parker right now is kind of laying low, he can't stand by and watch people get killed or whatever and stuff like that. This could confront him, having to confront Venom or whatever, and this can kind of start their rivalry, and we can kind of have it where it's going to be a time where the symbiote feels some kind of attraction towards Spider-Man and either wants to kill Spider-Man or kind of be with Spider-Man, if that makes sense. So that way you can kind of do the black suit arc, and you can probably bring back Carnage if Carnage survives. Who knows? But you can't really kill these symbiotes like that any goddamn way. And of course, you can bring out another villain. You can either bring out another Sinister Six person, or you can bring out some more symbiotes. It really doesn't really matter. But maybe you can do a semi-alien suit storyline that's dealing with that kind of stuff, which all still culminates into a fight between, you can still have Spider-Man and Venom fight or whatever, but then towards their little fight, they'll fight early on in the thing, and it'll be really, gruesome or whatever. I think if we go with the MCU Spider-Man, I think it'll really show some growth or whatever, because then I think that's what the MCU Spider-Man needs. It needs to get away from all of the craziness of the MCU and kind of stay in a grounded level. And I think taking the MCU Spider-Man and having him fight the Sony's Venom or whatever, and literally having that Venom, be that lethal fighter or whatever and stuff like that. Even though Tom Holland has anything, not Tom Holland, but Eddie Brock in this universe don't have a grudge against Peter Parker. It really doesn't matter at this time, because what's going to happen is when we pick up with the Venom next time, Eddie Brock kind of set in his ways of the whole dark, gruesome thing or whatever. That's what I'm thinking. Because Eddie Brock, even though Eddie Brock doesn't really want to kill like that, he does start embracing the dark impulses of the symbiote, and he understands hey, it happens, whatever, as long as we don't kill innocents. Sure. And I think that'll be something really cool, because you can bring in another character. I know they're already setting up Morbius, and it looks like the Vulture is still sort of in there. So you can kind of still have that. And on top of that, Sony does own Spider-Man, so technically they can get Tom Holland in to the movie still, while you can still do the MCU movies, but you can still bring him in as well. It'll be a tricky kind of situation, but I would love to kind of see like a Maximum Carnage story sort of in some kind of way. But I really think that Tom Holland Spider-Man needs to go through something, because all the other Spider-Mans went through something. He hasn't. Like my mama said, oh, Spider-Boy, like that's about it. That this isn't Spider-Man. And again, she's not a comic book fan. She's a normal person who knows about Spider-Man. So if she wasn't impressed with the MCU Spider-Man, I know something. I know something. And that's what a lot of people have been saying. Like, he needs a shakeup. And even with the whole No Way Home thing, I'm just like, we're still finding easy ways for him to get out of stuff instead of actually going through the responsibilities that he needs to go through. And we need something that doesn't have an attachment to Tony Stark, Iron Man, because that's what needs to happen. You need to get that character away from the MCU for a little bit, and you need to let him mature as his own character and be his own person. Spider-Man should never be second fiddle to any other Marvel heroes like that. Yeah, he's a street character, but he's also like the face of Marvel. So, he has his own rogues galleries to deal with. But he really do need an injection of maturity. He really does. And I feel like this will be something really cool, because then you can really go there. You can really push Spider-Man and Venom with their powers and shows Peter, being very creative or whatever. Tell Tom Holland, hey, put on a little bit more muscle, boy. You gonna get serious. We gonna go ham in the gym. When we get done, you gonna be looking like fucking Henry Cavill. You know what I'm saying? Get him on that kind of training regimen, and get Tom Hardy into gaining a little bit more muscles for his role, so he can look more menacing as a character. Fix him up, so he doesn't look like he's a scrub, and make him look like a bodybuilder. That's what he needs to look like. That's what Eddie Brock needs to look like. He needs to look like a fucking bodybuilder. That's what I want to see. And maybe, like I said, you bring in Carnage, you can bring in Vulture, you can bring in Rhino, whoever you need to bring in there, have Spider-Man and Venom still fight each other, but then at the end they got to team up to take on some crazy person or whatever, stuff like that, and make an understanding of what's going on with each other, but also still has the second act where Spider-Man is dealing with this Venom suit now, because the Venom suit kind of left Eddie Brock, and now Eddie Brock got to be like very creative to get the suit back from Spider-Man. And Spider-Man at first is starting to like it, but then when he realized it's kind of taken over or whatever, he figures out a way to get the suit off. It goes back to Eddie, and since the Venom symbiote feels rejected by Peter Parker, that kind of sees in more of the hatred of Spider-Man and Peter Parker towards Venom, which set up them fighting once again, maybe, and then end up having another act where they have to fight something together, because Venom and Spider-Man do occasionally team up to take on something. Even when they're fighting each other, something bigger happens where it requires both of them. I don't know. I'm just saying. I'm just kind of spitballing with ideas. I'm not saying that is actually what's happening, and I'm not saying that Tom Holland Spider-Man is going to appear in the Venom movies or whatever, but the problem is with the quote-unquote Venomverse or whatever, you going to have to do some kind of Spider-Man character. You going to either Tom Holland, or you can save this for Miles Morales if you want to. As long as it's not Spider-Gwen, and as long as it's not Silk or Spider-Woman, I'm fine. But it has to be Miles Morales, It has to be Miles Morales. That's the only other Spider-Man character I will accept. It is the only Spider-Man character I will accept that is not Peter Parker or Ben Reilly or Kane Parker, the clones of Peter Parker. And you can easily do some stuff where you can find an actor that looks like Tom Holland and be like, oh, Miles Warren had cloned him when he discovered that Peter Parker was Spider-Man from the MCU thing. So you can kind of semi-tie that thing in there, and it's been the clones been like manipulated or whatever. That's why they look a little bit different. You get an actor that looks similar to Tom Holland, blonde hair, bam, you got Scarlet Spider. With Kane Parker, you can either go the route of when he was the Mark of Cain at first, where he was in that crazy outfit, or you can give him the Scarlet Spider 2 costume and he can still be like a scarred version of Tom Holland. Again, get an actor that looks like Tom Holland and put some slashes on his fucking face and call it a damn day. But I'm sorry, I'm not with the female characters being the main characters for like the main Spider characters. I know what that's going to sound like, but I said what I said. I like Spider-Woman, I like Spider-Girl, but I don't want them to take the spot or place of Spider-Man just because you don't have the rights to Spider-Man. Because like I said, there are 3 other Spider characters that you can use if you have to go the route, because we're at a time where it's been too many female replacements for these characters. So let's not go that route. That's how I feel about the situation. I understand people like, oh, they can still be in there. They can still be supporting characters. If that's what you want, yeah, they can still be supporting characters. I have no problem with that. But as far as like them being the center focus of the Sony verse or whatever, I'm not feeling it and I'm not for it at all. But because I want it to, because I needed to be steeped into the Spider-Man lore. Venom, Carnage, the symbiotes usually have a vengeance against Spider-Man. And if you can't use Peter Parker, like I said, there are 3 other Spider-Mans if you want to. There are 3 other Spider-Mans you can use. Use them. Just don't use the female Spider characters, because they have their own stories and they have their own villains that are different than what Spider-Man has to deal with. You get what I'm saying? That's what I'm saying. Like Spider-Man villains, and this includes Miles Morales, Scarlet Spider, Spider-Man 2099, and Kane Parker, have similar villains, or they fight similar themed villains, but the females fight different stuff. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I'm saying it. I know this kind of tangent off for a little bit, but no, I'm just kind of like spitballing the idea here. But you know, if it does happen, like in Venom 2, it'd be funny, like they tease a Spider-Man cameo thing or something like that. Wouldn't it be funny if it was the MCU Spider-Man, right? and then it's like, oh, okay, cool. So we can go with that. Let's remove Peter Parker, the MCU Spider-Man, a little bit further away from the MCU characters, but he can still be in the world of both the Sony and the MCU world, and they can kind of like just tease at the hints of it. You get what I'm saying? And go with the R rating and really show Spider-Man in this dark, serious, somber tone of a movie. I know it sounds crazy. Guys. I really do. But I really think that this could help the MCU Spider-Man stand out and be on his own, because that is the problem right now. He's heavily dependent on Doctor Strange, Iron Man, the Avengers. Like he feels like he's too heavily relied on the heroes around him and not himself. And that's not what Spider-Man should be. You get what I'm saying? I know it sounds weird. I know I'm like spitballing the idea, but maybe that could be something that could happen. But yeah, tell me what you guys think in the comment section below, and I'll catch you guys later. Peace out.